I wouldn't want to be one of those people who say things like, seeing these two characters interact just gives me life, or something like that. Still, never have I ever imagined Gabby and Grett would eventually be on good terms again, especially after everything that's happened between them in season 1. I was so hoping it would happen, but I wasn't really counting on it, so that was such a pleasant surprise. I just love how Gabby genuinely wanted to hang out with Grett and just chill together, and what's even better is that despite being under Yoel's control, if you will, Grett actually looked forward to it. She was so sweet, she almost seemed surprised someone would actually consider her and would want to spend time with her. I feel like, because of her confident and arrogant facade, she ended up pushing away so many people in her life to the point of just isolating herself. So when Gabby finally showed some interest in spending time with her, Grett saw it as an opportunity she couldn't pass up. I loved everything about these scenes. What can I say? Seeing them interact, it just gives me life, you know? Yeah, I know, I'm basic. Even though Gabby can't quite explain why she cares for Grett, especially after being mistreated by her the whole time, she did earn the title of human hemorrhoid for a reason, Gabby seemed to relate to her and just wanted to help her out anyway. I love how torn she was, unsure whether she should help her old enemy or not. She's always been kinda ambivalent when it comes to Grett if you think about it. Also, like, when in episode 9 Rhea confronted Grett about Yoel's behavior, it was fine, I guess I liked it, sure, but Rhea just didn't feel like the right person to help Grett through it. Instead, with Gabby, it all works so much better. After all, neither of them has been raised in a loving and healthy environment, and both had to put up with very toxic families and tough home lives. So if someone can understand Grett, I think Gabby is the right person for the job. Although, if Gabby does end up helping Grett there, then I would absolutely need to see the two of them eventually discuss the events of season 1, and especially see Grett apologize for everything she did. I already have the title for such an episode, Forgive and Forget. Yes, I don't know who's in charge of naming the episodes, but can we actually name an episode Forgive and Forget? As long as, you know, it makes sense within the context of the episode. Come on, I'm not asking for the world, it's a simple title, hashtag Forgive and Forget, let's make this happen. In the meantime, Connor tests the waters and befriends all of the good guys so he can bring them together and form an alliance to counter the villains, which is a brilliant move, but at the same time, I'd say it's predictable, or rather sensible for someone who's had a chance to watch all the episodes while staying at the motel. I'm pretty sure James, Lake, Hunter, Miriam, Tess, or Ashley would have done the very same thing. It's just a shame though that Ashley has been trying to do the very same thing for the longest time, yet she never managed to bring them all together. I guess, in a way, she kinda laid all the groundwork, so if Connor succeeded, it's mostly because of her. So we could say she walked so Connor could run, but at the same time, it's just a pity she's not there to see everyone finally getting along. Her kids finally grew up, but she's not there to witness it, damn it. We then jump right into the challenge, which this time consists of a game of keep away, so I guess no explanation is needed. Admittedly, this one didn't have the most original or exciting concept behind it, but they did manage to keep it entertaining. Still, I would have appreciated it if the campers had fought a little harder with some more grit and some more Grett, you know? After all, Crystal did encourage them to be as creative as possible and to use any means necessary to get the flag, so I kinda expected there to be some more punching and kicking to snatch the flag from one another's hands. I guess Alec did kick Tom in the nuts, but that was the only quote-unquote creative tactic someone used. It would have been a little more interesting, for instance, if they had added some traps or perhaps some tools hidden in the forest to help the campers. However though, I know I often point out issues of the sort when it comes to the challenges, but in general, just don't take them as fatal flaws and mistakes that ruin it all for me, because at the end of the day, I do realize that the animation of this venture camp has its limits. They're on a budget, so they can't animate crazy fights or that many extra elements. Everything pretty much costs, and even though the animation has never been this smooth before, the more stuff they add, the more time consuming and pricey everything's gonna be. So even though I'd love it if the challenges were a bit more action-packed, I'm aware that there are limits we should take into account. Still, they could have made it all more dramatic and exciting by getting rid of that montage, which you guys know I'm not too fond of, and they could have showed us 2 more minutes of the campers strategizing and working together to get their hands on the flag. In a pretty unexpected twist, Rhea approaches Ali and makes her an offer she just can't refuse. Not before, of course, buttering her up and calling her a strong competitor. I initially thought Rhea meant to convince Ali to vote for Jake tonight to split the votes so that the villains wouldn't need to worry about the heroes voting together, but Ali ultimately didn't vote with her, so this whole conversation didn't seem to go anywhere, and that left me a bit confused, honestly. But after rewatching the episode, I guess these two technically did not agree on voting for Jake tonight. They just agreed to work together at some point. So I imagine this little chat will pay off later on, presumably once the alliances won't be of much use anymore. And tell me if I'm overreaching here, but what if Rhea didn't really have that whole conversation with Ali in an attempt to help the alliance, but rather she did it to help herself, to make sure she had some extra ally who's not a villain, you know, as some sort of safety net in case things ever go south. It would be super sneaky, but also a very smart move. I could see Rhea do that. If it ends up happening, I swear this girl is gonna score some pretty big points in my book. In another twist, Jake and Aiden end up working together to escape a wolf, and surprisingly don't fight like little kids. Oh my. This is so unexpected. This is probably the most likable these two have ever been since episode 2, maybe? Honestly, I quite enjoyed how Aiden came up with the plan to get rid of the wolf, and I did like to see Tinky Winky be the sad and awkward type of jealous rather than the arrogant type who points fingers. Why couldn't he be like this since day one? It would have been so much easier for everyone to empathize with him, but of course there wouldn't have been drama. I also really like how, while escaping the wolf, Jake went from being scared to death to chilling and slowly chewing an apple to being terrified once more. I don't know why exactly, but that kinda felt super in character for him.
That guy has no idea what's going on.
And finally, Alec fumbles a fake apology to Connor and explains he voted him out in episode 6 because he just wanted to keep him away from Rhea because he cares for him and he's such a great friend, which was pretty reminiscent of Tessa's reasoning for eliminating Ellie. Although I have to admit, it made much more sense in Ellie's case, whereas here it really doesn't. Connor saw through Alec's bullshit right away. Ultimately though, Alec steals the flag from Connor. The dude can be super smart when he wants, but this time he didn't think of hiding the rest of the flag underneath his shirt, so Alec wins immunity as well as a romantic dinner for two, a dinner he decides to share with Rhea. Again, I wouldn't hate it if those two ever became an item. Right before the ceremony, Connor summons all the heroes, gives them a motivational speech and hypes them up, and finally convinces them to vote together tonight. And am I glad these guys are finally willing to put up a fight. Especially, it was pretty smart how Connor made them all realize how the villains somehow managed to be more mature than them, as despite all their flaws and egos and against all expectations, they still managed to put their differences aside and advance in the game together, whereas the heroes somehow just couldn't do it. And that was pretty eye-opening for them. I really liked their reactions. They were like, so if we don't bicker the entire time and actually start thinking about the game, we can actually win the game. Wow! Connor, you're a genius! Thank you guys, thank you. It took me 50 years to realize this, but eventually I got it. At the campfire ceremony, Trevor is taking over for Crystal, who went out on a date with Derek, and after the two alliances cast their votes, we end up with a tie between Gabby and Tom. I'm not really sure though why the heroes decided to target Gabby instead of Yul, especially given how both Connor and Aiden don't really like the guy in the slightest, and I guess Jake, Tom and Ali aren't probably too fond of him either. If I had to guess, I suppose they chose Gabby because she generally tries harder in challenges, whereas Yul does the bare minimum, but still, she's also the only one they could eventually bring over to their side. So I would have picked Yul, but I guess their reasoning too kinda makes sense. The ceremony itself, I guess, wasn't particularly surprising since everyone could pretty much see the tie coming even before Connor's speech. However, the tiebreaker, it just made all the difference. If the episode didn't have it, I just wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. It made the episode more unique, but at the same time, it kinda made up for the first challenge of the episode and its lack of action. For the tiebreaker, Tom and Gabby are both locked inside a cage and need to use some wrenches and ropes to build a stick long enough to reach the key and use it to free themselves. The whole thing was executed so well this time, unlike the tiebreaker between Yul and Maggie in season 2, which was a huge letdown, and I especially liked how the other campers tried to help out their friends and allies. I really did not expect the villains to be this supportive. They obviously need to stick together if they want to win eventually, but I just didn't think they'd be that helpful and supportive. I thought they'd just pretend not to care as they often do. Instead, no, we had Alec giving Gabby some tips, Rhea just wanting to help her out, and Grett cheering for her. Grett actually seemed worried here, worried she wouldn't have a chance to still see Gabby and talk to her. Or maybe I'm just speculating, who knows. In the end, Gabby manages to escape the cage seconds before Tom could, causing the guy to take the bus of losers and leave the game. Before going though, luckily he and Gabby go back to being friends and let bygones be bygones, which I admit it really warmed my heart. Because their friendship was like the only one I truly cared about, and I just hated how the whole Ellie thing just drove a wedge between them. It's a huge bummer though if you think about it, like Gabby and Tom will probably never see each other again, like they'll never get a chance to actually be friends because Ellie doesn't like Tom, and if Tom and Jake are gonna end up together, Jake doesn't like Ellie either, so I don't really see Gabby and Tom staying friends and seeing each other, unless they kinda do it in secret behind Jake and Ellie's backs. After he says goodbye to everyone, Tom finally promises he will soon clear the air with Jake. And how are they not together yet? At this point, I just fear that now that Tom is out of the game, he and Jake will probably not get that much screen time together, so I kinda fear they're gonna rush the resolution of the storyline. I don't know what to think, I swear. If they made us sit through 12 episodes of Jake and Tom drama only to make it all end in the Mattel episode in 3 minutes in a rush, I just can't assure you I won't murder someone, so they'd better do this conclusion properly. I didn't love the journey, but at least let the conclusion be great. Please. Finally, to wrap up the episode, Trevor walks in on Derek and Crystal kissing, which causes him to walk away distraught and devastated. And so Trevor's arc finally comes to an end. Is what I'll say in 12 more episodes. I hope this story's not gonna take forever as well. Even though I guess I wouldn't worry for Trevor since Derek made it quite clear this is just a fling, so the guy still has hope, I still prefer Derek and Crystal together. They're made for one another, they're so much alike. So, you know, Trevor, find someone else, bud, okay? You don't deserve any of this. Move on. Overall, this episode was pretty solid, very well executed, and more importantly, it kept things fresh. I really can't stress enough how important that is. They didn't make us sit through any repetitive or unimportant conversations, so that's plenty already. But let me know your thoughts on it, and also some thoughts on Tom as well. And about his relationship with Jake, I guess. As if we hadn't talked about that enough. As for my predictions, for the next episode, I kinda expect Yul to be eliminated. Gabby will make sure he leaves for good, we know that, and I feel like that might happen next time. The only thing I want out of Yul's elimination is for Grett to be actively involved in it. That's the only thing I care about. But let me know your predictions too. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao!